Welcome back to another CM Podcast Banger, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to be talking about life is meaningless. This is going to be a good topic. It's going to be a little bit more depressing. It's going to be a little bit more sad. But let's get to it. Hope you're having a good day. Try and keep busy so you don't feel like this. Anyway, let's continue.
Was a great king of Greek mythology. So clever he was able to outwit gods themselves. Twice he cheated death. First by
Wait, is that the start?
Sisyphus was a great king.
Okay, that's the start. Okay, that's crazy. Started off the bat with this. I remember this story. It's basically where this guy was greedy with all the power that he wanted, and he was trying to escape death and trying to change something that can't happen. You know?
King of Greek mythology. So clever he was able to outwit gods themselves. Twice he cheated death, first by capturing Thanatos, the god of death, then by tricking the goddess of the underworld, Persephone, into releasing him back into the lands of the living. The gods weren't happy with
See? Crazy.
this, and so for his arrogance, Sisyphus was given a deceptively simple punishment: roll a boulder up a hill. The problem was that the boulder had been magically enchanted to fall back down to the bottom every time Sisyphus managed to get it to the top, effectively condemning him to an eternity of repeating the same impossible and meaningless task. Classical interpretations of the myth view it as an allegory for the futility of trying to escape.
It's basically that thing. You can keep trying, you can keep trying, you can keep trying, but at the end of the day, you're not going to succeed at that thing. You know what I mean? Perfect analogy there.
Death. No matter how powerful or clever a person is, we're all doomed to meet the same fate. More modern audiences have found something more relatable about Sisyphus' struggle, seeing it not as a simple parable about the inevitability of death, but more like a metaphor for the drudgery and monotony of their own lives. Every day we
This suspension's crazy, bro.
wake up, make coffee, take the train to work, stare at a computer for hours, get yelled at by our boss, stare at the computer some more, then take the train back home, binge Netflix or YouTube while eating dinner, go to bed, and then wake up and do it all over again.
There are not enough programmers in the UK. Businesses need
didn't
new developers. Follow.
I didn't ask
Just like
perfect. But that advert was crazy. Didn't want to know about that advert. This is crazy so far. Man's coming with facts, and he's coming he's got a little speed beat in the back of it. Yeah, bro. Life is meaningless at some points. You have to try and find meaning. Meaning could be making your bed in the morning. Meaning could be anything that you want to do or achieve in life. You just have to make it meaningful. Because nothing is technically meaningful. Sheesh.
this, we seem condemned to repeat the same meaningless tasks over and over and over. Most of us do this every day for the rest of our lives as though we're sleepwalking, never waking up or stopping to ask why. For some of us, one day we're standing on a street corner preparing to go to work when, in an instant, we're struck by the strangeness of it all. Suddenly, nothing appears to have purpose. Life is haphazard and meaningless.
Man's clearly been thinking about this. This is crazy.
You look around and you whisper to yourself, why are all of these people even in such a hurry? For that matter, why am I? What's the point of all this? Why am I even alive?
Fair enough, guys.
There's a modern day problem with absurdism, money, or the lack thereof. The reason many of us never pause to ponder our meaning is because we don't have the economic stability to do so. It's difficult to think about the meaning of life when you're worrying about keeping a roof over your head, which is why we're getting to a point where financial stability may just be the first step towards embracing the...
That's what I meant. Doing something you like, doing something you love takes your mind off it for a brief second. But as soon as you stop, you start to think about what's the meaning of life, you know what I mean? So if I'm lying in bed awake and I'm just thinking about stuff, that thought could pop into your head. Being busy can stop you from having those thoughts.
absurd. However, in 2022, that's easier said than done. Most ways of passively growing your money, such as investing in the stock market, have lost trillions in the past year. But with inflation still essentially taking money out of your bank account, it's daunting to sit around and do nothing. That's why we've partnered with Masterworks since last year, a unique platform that allows you to invest in contemporary art by legends like Picasso and Banksy for a fraction of
Crazy. They're trying to invest in.
the price. According to Citibank, this art has a very low correlation to other investments like stocks, so when they dip, your art investments may not. In fact, art prices increased by an average of 29% last year, far outpacing stocks according to Barron's. And while most markets were plummeting, Masterworks sold 9 paintings last year, returning over $25 million to their investors.
Jeez.
Over 675,000 people have signed up so far, and
Damn, he's dropping facts.
in fact, demand is so high that art can sell out within minutes. However, subscribers can claim a free, no-obligation account at the link in the description today. Back to our story. Human beings crave meaning. It's part of our biology. We're evolutionarily programmed
See?
to search for
Create
patterns and
meaning.
chaos to try and understand why things are happening. It's how we learn. The problem is that existence is, at best, random and irrational. Nothing really seems to matter. Your loved ones die, stars explode, natural disasters wipe out entire cities. Millions of people spend half their day on TikTok, and for what? Yet we keep going, constantly striving to create order by giving these things purpose despite the universe denying it. This conflict is what the French Algerian philosopher Albert Camus referred to as the absurd. It's an irreconcilable paradox. We yearn for meaning in a meaningless universe.
Crazy.
Camus uses the myth of Sisyphus as an allegory to describe this relationship. We can try to push the boulder to the top of the hill, but inevitably, it will roll back down. More often than not, the effects of this are intense feelings of anxiety, alienation, and hopelessness. We shout into the void, but are met only with deafening silence, not even an echo.
Damn.
For most of history, people have turned to religion for answers. You didn't need to worry if your life had meaning, because some higher power was there to provide it. This all changed in 19th century Europe, as new forms of science and philosophy threatened to replace Christianity as the central axis around which people's lives revolved. Notable texts that
Right, to be honest, that's a good thing about religion, though, isn't it? Because, like, religion gives some people meaning of an escape. Because, like, in Buddhism, you've got reincarnation, you've got the hope of being reborn into a different animal, depending on how you treated people in your past life, which is a really good thought, but it's just not real. It's just not true. And same with kind of like Christianity. I don't see how Christianity is real. Like, I don't have anything against religion. You have the right to believe in what you want to believe, but like, science created the world. The Big Bang created the world. Everyone in this world has created something. So this charger here, someone created that. These headphones, someone created that. This top, someone created that. And it's all human being creations. No flipping God came down and went, do this, do that, make this, make that. Everybody in the world just went, how can I make this? I think he's going to talk about the telephone. I think this is the guy who made the telephone. We'll see.
such as Charles Darwin's The Origin of Species, challenged previously held beliefs about the nature of humanity.
Oh no, he challenged the beliefs of human reality.
Leading to a radical shift in society away from religion. German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche noted this, famously declaring, "God is dead, and we have killed him." Despite what some may think, that statement wasn't claiming that God...
Guys, that's crazy. God is dead and we killed him. Crazy, brother. Crazy. To be honest, you've got to think, as nothing lasts forever, God must not be real to some extent. I keep getting text messages. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, let's go.
...had literally been murdered, nor was Nietzsche celebrating. Rather, it was an observation that without Christianity, society had lost the foundation upon which it had built centuries-old systems of morality, metaphysics, and meaning. Nietzsche felt a great deal of anxiety about this, worrying that without a clear replacement, people would succumb to nihilism. I've talked about nihilism before in another video, so I won't go into depth here. but to give a brief explanation, nihilism is the belief in nothingness, a belief that rejects the idea of objective truth.
Crazy.
According to Nietzsche, nihilism was a necessary step on the journey away from religion, but it wasn't the destination because it presented a very real problem. If people abuse
Okay, that's a great fact for everyone today. Everyone's fact of the day is nihilism. What that means is that the belief in nothingness. That's crazy. I might have to become one of those, because I do believe in nothingness. Even though you do live to do work, you work, and then when you've made enough money, you retire, enjoy the rest of your life, and then just as you're enjoying life, you die. Sadly.
life as having no inherent meaning, it would likely lead them to despair. Because of this, he sought to speed up the arrival of nihilism so that he could, in turn, speed up its departure. He believed that after nihilism had passed, humanity could finally arrive at the true philosophical foundation on which society could thrive. Unfortunately, while he successfully expedited nihilism's arrival, he failed to do so with its departure. In fact, Nietzsche's philosophy was taken up by many of the violent ideologies that defined the early 20th century. Well over 100 years later, nihilism remains rampant throughout global culture. Trust in both
Crazy. Let's go. Let's hear more about this.
secular and religious institutions is at an all-time low. Our governments are corrupt, there are CEOs with more money than some countries, and our spiritual leaders often appear ineffective and out of touch. Most people today report that faith plays little to no role in their lives. Instead, we've begun looking to science and reason for answers, but these haven't been able to offer a sufficient solution to the problem of meaning either. So what are we to do? Should we just simply accept our fate, conclude that our lives are without purpose, and allow the boulder to roll back over us?
The life is it has meaning to a certain extent. If you make it meaningful and you achieve things and you make goals and you make plans, you make things, lives can be good. But like once you're dead, after 40 years or so of everyone knowing you, they're probably going to be dead too. So unless if you're really, really famous and achieved something magnificent, you may never be remembered for it. So it's important that you try and achieve as much as you can.
Well, 20th century philosophers Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre didn't think so. Both argued that in the absence of objective meaning, we, as free and rational beings, must fight to create our own purpose. Sartre is credited as the father of modern existentialism, a philosophical school concerned with our plight as individuals, forced to assume responsibility for our lives, without certain knowledge of truth. Though its roots can be traced back to 19th century figures like Soren Kierkegaard and Fyodor Dostoevsky, Sartre differentiated himself by rejecting the idea that humans are reliant on an external power like God to provide.
This man be getting hella factual. I bet he's done all these research and shit as well. 14-minute video. We've got a couple more minutes then, boys.
With meaning.
Halfway
He
through.
claimed that man is nothing else but that which he makes of himself, and referred to those who would outsource this responsibility to a higher power as acting in what he called bad faith. In Sartre's view, existence precedes essence. We are conceived, and only after being born do we figure out what our purpose in life will be. This might seem like an uncontroversial opinion to us today, but in the mid-20th century, this was a radical idea. For most of human history, it was assumed that essence precedes existence. Since the time of Plato and Aristotle, it was widely believed that our purpose as individuals was assigned to us before birth. The meaning of your life was ready-made by the gods, prepackaged before you were even born. Sartre's claim was a direct contradiction of this widely held belief.
He said you were born by God. Everyone's born by God, baby. That's crazy. That's technically what he's saying. Everybody was born by God. Crazy.
Declaration that we as humans aren't beholden to gods or kings to provide us with meaning, only to ourselves.
I used to find my credit score really confusing, but then someone showed me this one trick that takes all the hassle out of credit building.
Bye.
For Sartre, the only problem of existence wasn't its lack of meaning, but rather its absolutely terrifying level of freedom. After all, without an objective meaning or morality, every one of us is responsible for designing our own purpose according to our own ethical code. Camus largely agreed with Sartre's diagnosis that we live in a meaningless universe where we as humans are, in his own words, abandoned to freedom. However, he didn't agree with the cure. To Camus, the solution to the problem of meaning wasn't as simple as making up your own. The universe would naturally rebuke our attempts to do so, no matter how hard we tried. We can push the boulder up the hill, but it will always fall back down. This, in turn, would still give rise to feelings of the absurd, as well as the associated sense of anxiety, alienation, and hopelessness that accompanies it. To Camus, there were only 3 possible reactions to this. The first of these is suicide, which Camus famously wrote is the one truly serious philosophical problem. Rather than grappling with the absurdity of life, you can simply refuse to play the game. The only issue is when you're gone, you can no longer enjoy life, however meaningless it may be. It also doesn't actually solve the problem, it only allows the absurd to decide your fate. It's essentially admitting defeat. The second possible reaction is the solution of faith, which Camus dubs philosophical suicide. Similar to Sartre's concept of bad faith, it's when a person rejects the burden of creating their own meaning by shifting their responsibility to an external ideology. This amounts to a kind of denial where the individual deludes themselves into thinking they've conquered the problem when, in reality, they're just avoiding it. It's simply an attempt to replace the absurd with a set of man-made beliefs, the consequence of which is the abdication of existential freedom. Importantly, Camus doesn't limit this to religion. Any ideological system can serve this function. Nationalism, capitalism, or even the values of our own family. When we allow external systems to dictate meaning to us, we give away the potential to determine our life's purpose. How many of us took a job or studied for a degree solely because our parents told us that we should? In a world as complicated and confusing as ours, it can be tempting to contract out our thinking and just go along with what we're told, but the risk of ruin we run in doing this is ending up in a situation where we're unhappy and unfulfilled. That's why many of us pause on that random Tuesday afternoon and ask ourselves,
this is hella depressing, guys. This is hella depressing. I might make a funnier video today, just so we don't just have depression on the channel. Thank you for 207 subscribers. I really appreciate it. Hope we can get to 1,000 soon, and peace.
Why am I doing any of this? If, instead, we make our own choices, we can decide meaning for ourselves and follow a path that calls to us instead of one that's just prescribed. Of course, there's no guarantee of success. In fact, according to Camus, you are destined to fail again and again. What he argues, though, is that this is the only true solution to the problem, to acknowledge the meaninglessness of life and continue living anyway.
Crazy.
As Camus puts it, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. The universe will always reject all attempts by the individual to create meaning. Just like Sisyphus, we're doomed to forever push the boulder up the hill, knowing that, no matter how hard we try, it will inevitably roll back down at the bottom. Yet, we must fight back against the absurd.
Crazy. And if you think about it, all you're doing is living to pay tax, pay money to people, even though you're going to die eventually, having loans, having cars, having all this stuff if you can't afford it, paying to live. You're paying to live even though you didn't ask to live. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Because it is by virtue of our struggle that we empower ourselves to live life the way we want. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Oh.
This philosophy effectively rejects nihilism as nothing more than a stepping stone on the way to absurdism. Life is meaningless, sure, and the only rational course of action is to behave as such. There is no plan, no objective truth, and everything happens purely by accident. But this doesn't necessitate nihilism. If we instead choose to embrace the absurd, we can view our circumstances as an opportunity to change our perspective. Camus notes that it's not meaninglessness that hurts, rather it's the desire for meaning being continuously rejected. If we can put aside our desires and simply accept life
Guys,
for
I'm
what it
making a
is,
rap,
we
okay?
open up ourselves to experiencing it
And
fully,
not
living
the
as passionately and as intensely as we like. In a world without meaning, we are free to constantly invent and reinvent our life's purpose, changing it as often as it suits us. Today, you may be stuck in a redundant, dead-end job, but tomorrow, you could easily quit and go about completely redefining your existence. Maybe you want to be a chef or a classical composer. Maybe you want to spend the next year backpacking through the wilderness or volunteering with an aid organization. All you have to do is find the courage to acknowledge your own freedom, and you can be whoever you want to be. Knowing this, we can abandon any expectations for the future and instead choose to live in the present moment. It isn't necessary that our actions lead to something bigger. There's no goal we have to reach, no afterlife to prepare for. Then we can find joy in every situation, no matter how unpleasant or absurd, because, well, it doesn't really matter. Although we may be fated to fail, there's no reason we can't be happy while we do it. This might lead to greater empathy for our fellow humans as we recognize that every person alive is fighting the same fight that we are. We can feel a sense of camaraderie in knowing that we're all in this together. We'll never make it to the top of the mountain. The meaning of our lives will forever elude us, but as Camus says, the struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. It's because of this that one must imagine Sisyphus happy.
Crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed.
Would you like to know how Graham made £109,282 and 59p?